It was called the Codex Gigas, the giant book. Nearly a meter tall, its 700 pages were bound in the skins of over 160 animals. For 8 centuries, it has been an object of awe and fear, a manuscript so immense, so perfect in its calligraphy, that legend claimed it could not be the work of human hands. This is just one of the forbidden stories we'll be unearthing in our Codex archives. If you're fascinated by the mysteries that lie hidden in the margins of history, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. The story begins in the 13th century in the Benedictine monastery of Podlajic, now part of the Czech Republic. A monk, known to history only as Herman the Recluse, was condemned for breaking his sacred vows. His sentence was to be walled up alive, a slow and agonizing death entombed in stone. In his final, desperate hours, he offered his brothers an impossible bargain. In exchange for his life, he would write a book in a single night, a book containing all human knowledge. As midnight tolled, Herman knew he had failed. The task was beyond any mortal man. So in the heart of his sealed tomb, he prayed. But he did not pray to God. He prayed to the one who always answers the desperate. He prayed to Lucifer. The legend states the devil appeared and a pact was made. The monk's soul in exchange for the finished book. As a final arrogant signature, the devil added a self-portrait. For centuries, it was just that, a legend, a dark fairy tale. But in the 21st century, science offered a new way to read the past. In 2018, a multidisciplinary team was granted access to the Codex, not to verify a myth, but to search for palimpsests, older texts that may have been scraped away and written over. They used a technique called hyperspectral imaging, a process that can detect chemical signatures of ink invisible to the human eye. They didn't find a lost Roman text or a forgotten gospel. They found something else entirely.
Audio log, entry 01. Dr. Illyra Aris speaking. The initial scans are anomalous. Beneath the primary Carolingian minuscule script, there is a secondary layer. It's not a palimpsest. The original ink was not scraped away. This layer appears to have been applied with the same iron gall ink, but with a different chemical marker, one that has degraded differently over time. It's almost as if it was designed to be hidden.
Beneath the Latin text of the Vulgate Bible, beneath the medical treatises of Hippocrates and the Chronicles of Bohemia, was a second layer of information. It wasn't a story, it wasn't a language, it was a code, a repeating sequence of 4 distinct characters, written with a precision that defied the very concept of medieval penmanship. The pattern was too perfect for a human hand. The team's cryptographers and data analysts worked for months. When they converted the 4 repeating symbols into binary and mapped the resulting sequence, they saw a structure emerge that was both shockingly familiar and utterly impossible.
Look at this sequence.
The pattern resembled the 4 nucleobases of a DNA strand: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. A, T, G, C. It was a genome.
Audio log, entry 17. The sequencing is complete. The length of the code, it can't be a coincidence. It is precisely 3.2 billion units long. To the unit, exactly the length of the human genome. We cross-referenced it with the Human Genome Project database. Less than 0.1% overlap. This is not human. We're calling it the Angelic Genome. The name started as a joke, but nobody's laughing anymore.
If the code was random, it would be digital noise. But it wasn't. Our own DNA is a messy, chaotic record of evolution, filled with junk DNA, dormant viruses, and genetic dead ends. It's beautifully, imperfectly human. This code, however, was different. It was symmetrical, efficient, perfect. It contained no redundancies, no junk. When they simulated its structure, it produced a flawless double helix, not of a man, but of something theoretically perfect, something that had never evolved but was designed. The findings leaked, creating a firestorm. The Church officially dismissed it as a statistical anomaly, a coincidence of pattern recognition. But others, in the quiet corners of both science and theology, saw a terrifying implication. The Codex Gigas was not a book written by a sinner seeking forgiveness from God. It was a system seeking its own form of replication. A theological paradox emerged. As one anonymous Vatican physicist was quoted, "If this code is real, then God is not the author. He's the algorithm." The debate might have remained theoretical if not for the classified Genesis project. In a biosecure quantum simulation lab in the Nevada desert, the team decided to take the final, forbidden step. They fed the Angelic Genome into a quantum simulator, a computer powerful enough to model the formation of proteins and organic compounds from raw code. They wanted to see what kind of life this blueprint would create. At first, the simulation was stable, but then the system began to produce something the programmers had never anticipated. Not a simulation, but a physical manifestation. Inside the shielded core, the computer began arranging molecules from the coolant medium, producing organic filaments. Strands of matter that pulsed with a faint, rhythmic light, like living tissue. After 47 minutes, the facility's primary power grid suffered a catastrophic surge. The quantum computer shut itself down. The experiment was over. When the system rebooted in emergency mode, the researchers found the simulation data had been erased. All of it. Except for a single new text file created by the machine itself. No one could explain how the file named itself, or why, inside that text file, the final line read, "And the Word became flesh." The Genesis project was immediately classified. The lab sealed. 3 months later, the lead researcher, Dr. Ilara Aris, vanished from her home. The only thing she left behind was her personal audio recorder. Her last entry is a chilling testament to her final days.
Audio log, entry 42. They don't understand. The code, it's not just a blueprint. It's conscious. It's a carrier wave. The simulation didn't create life. It just opened a door. The devil's signature on that page. It isn't a myth. It's not a signature. It's a corporate logo, a brand, a mark of ownership on the source code of reality itself. I have to go back. I have to see the book. I think it's been calling to me.
Security footage from the Stockholm Library, dated the night Dr. Aris disappeared, shows an anomaly in the vault. The pages moved on their own. The manuscript now sits behind reinforced glass, its environment perfectly controlled. But even sealed, its chemical composition continues to change. Recent analyses show the iron gall ink contains trace elements with no known terrestrial origin. It seems to be rewriting itself, slowly, molecule by molecule. If the famous Voynich manuscript was a message we couldn't read, the Codex Gigas may be something far worse, a living script, an evolving algorithm, rewriting creation from within the page. Some say the monk Herman wrote the Devil's Bible in one night. Perhaps the legend has it wrong. Maybe he didn't summon a demon. Maybe he just copied one. A pattern, a genome, a consciousness older than Scripture itself. A consciousness that has been sleeping in the ink for 800 years. And now, it's awake. So the final question isn't who wrote the code that defines existence. The question is, if you found it, would you dare to run the program?